Call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, all members are present. We have an approval of the agenda. Is there any changes? No. Council? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Heidi, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes of the October 3rd, 2018 regular meeting. All received them in your packet. Is there any changes, corrections, clarification? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 3rd, 2018 regular meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. This now brings us to our public open forum. This is separate from the public hearings that we have tonight. So is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Okay. Our public open forum is now closed. Reports and presentations. Police Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for the month of September 2018. Some of the numbers we had. We had 12 alarm calls. We had 3 assaults on officers. We had 19 personal assists. We did 71 business assists. We had 29 assists for other agencies. We had 8 clearing bar crowd calls. 31 citizen contacts, 8 gas no pays, 16 matter of information calls, 14 medicals, 9 citations issued for no driver's license. We had 6 accidents. We patrolled at the school 28 times. We had 24 suspicious calls. We had 5 unwanted person calls. And we had 17 welfare checks, and we gave out 339 verbal warnings for a total activity of 858 for the month. And of course, in the month of September, we had Thursday, September 13th, we had the officer-involved shooting incident, which was a major incident in our community. First of all, for that incident, I would like to thank my own officers for responding and all coming in and assisting with that call. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department, Stearns County, who set up an incident command center and led a lot of the investigation as the event happened. And of course, I want to thank a personal thank to the officers that went into the house with me to look for the suspect, which was Trooper Tony Butler and Melrose Officer Pat Nicknicky and Stearns County Sheriff Paul Orvis. So I want to thank them for going in and helping me. And of course, all the other agencies, there were so many here, and I was inside the house, so it's hard to make sure I miss them all, but you know, we had Melrose, that was a big help to us. Chief Craig Mouse did an excellent job over here, and a lot of the agencies all around us that came and helped. So I want to put a thank you out to all of them. And a special thanks, I think a person that really should be mentioned is our own Sergeant Jensen, Joe Jensen, who who I had called, and he came in and basically got things calmed down, and then ended up negotiating with this gentleman for almost 2 hours and set a good rapport with him, which ultimately led to being able to tase him and taking custody of him. So without Sergeant Jensen setting that rapport and dedicating time of 2 hours with him, I think this could have went a different way probably. So I can't express the job that he did on scene at that time. So other than that, that's all I have.
Questions, comments? The only thing is, I think myself personally, and I think I can speak on behalf of the city, that we thank all law enforcement for the job they do. And thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also want to thank, I always forget Melissa too. She took a lot of calls at dispatch that day too.
Right.
And you know, to sift through all those as they come in on an event is an amazing accomplishment in itself. And to put word out to everything else that needed to get done too. So commend her on her job that she did in the office there too. So that was very important. So,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Planning Commission report, Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you have a copy of the agenda that we had a Planning Commission meeting on Tuesday, October 9th. We held a public hearing for some certain code amendments to update the code, and that will be an action item later this evening under Agenda Item 7F. And in the building permits for the month of September, we did about 13 building permits with about $500,000 worth of construction. And overall, for the third quarter, the end of the third quarter, end of September, we did about $7 million of new construction value in our community.
Questions? Comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Public Works Department report. Ben?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. These past couple weeks, we've been working on getting the park bathrooms and sprinklers all winterized, and everything is done in all the parks, so we're ready for winter there. Trucks have been prepped for their DOT inspection, which will be next week, and we have material on site to start working on the dog park fence. Locates are called in, and hoping to start putting that in next week. We've been working on the ice at the arena all week, and by Friday night, everything should be ready to go for skating on Monday. And locates have been called in to install the road signs on the North Road project up by 4th, 5th, Elm, and Oak Street, and Main Street. So hopefully have the signs up next week as well.
Okay.
Questions?
Questions? We heard anything from MnDOT as far as the resurfacing on Main Street? The last I heard was September 24th. We're a long ways past that.
Yeah.
So it's just... Okay, on the contractor, okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now recess our regular council meeting and go into a public hearing. We have 4 public hearings tonight regarding proposed assessment for unpaid city and utility service charges. Public hearing number 2 is proposed assessment for Getty Street project. Public hearing number 3 is proposed assessment for North Utility project. And public hearing number 4 is liquor license revocation for El Fogon Restaurant. It is our intention that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. If you wish to speak, please sign in on the sign-up sheet at the back of the room. The procedure is as follows. We will have presentation by staff, followed by questions of staff. Then we will go to public input. Raise your hand. When recognized by the mayor, approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. State your comments and position. No one will be allowed to speak a second time until everyone has had a chance to be heard. We will first hear questions for clarification. Secondly, public in favor. Third, public speaking against. After everyone who wishes to speak has had the opportunity to be heard, the hearing will be closed. After closure of the public hearing, the council will deliberate and take action as appropriate. Members of the audience do not participate in the council's discussion unless a majority of the council concedes to hear additional information or questions. We will handle each public hearing separately. The rules will pertain to each and every one of these public hearings, so we don't have to read the whole works. So, the first public hearing that we have is proposed assessment for unpaid city and utility service charges.
Okay, the City Council, at its September 5th, 2018 regular meeting, you called a hearing to be held now this evening, October 17th, to consider the assessment of unpaid utility and service bills. A state statute allows for the city to apply certain unpaid bills or service charges against property taxes when they remain unpaid. This year, we have 6 properties that we have on the proposed list. All 6 of them have lot maintenance assessments. So 4 of them are for lawn care and 2 of them were for sidewalk snow removal downtown last winter. So there was a total of $1,320.94. And according to policy, they each have the $100 administration fee, so that's a total of $1,920.94. And you each received a listing of those individual charges in your packet. Everybody was mailed notice of this hearing tonight, and they have the opportunity to come tonight if they wish to dispute that charge. And then after the public hearing is closed, then you would be taking action on this under the action portion of the meeting.
Questions of staff? This is something that we usually have every year because they don't mow their lawn or shovel the snow or anything like that. The city has to step in and take care of it, and someone has to pay for it, so it gets assessed toward their lot. No questions or comments? Okay, then we will ask for the public input on this item. Is there anyone here that needs clarification, would like to speak in favor or against? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against or needs clarification on this item? Calling a third time. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against or need clarification on this item? Seeing no one, then we will move on to our second public hearing.
Okay, for the second public hearing, I'm going to turn that over to the city engineer.
Okay, the second public hearing is on the Getty Street project.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, the audience. My name is Chuck Bozer, and I'm here to present on the Getty Street Reconstruct project for the final assessments. Just an overview quickly where the project location is. It's in the corner of Highway 71 and I-94 off the Beltline Drive. Just to give you a brief summary of why we did the project. We had, on Getty Street, we had pavement deterioration. Existing section was a rural section, did not have curb and gutter. It lacked width, what was needed in that area, and kind of the thickness also lacked support for commercial traffic loads in that area. So that was kind of generally the reasons why we moved ahead with the project. And then the new Getty Street, what it fixed, what it realigned to match the Getty Street to the north of Beltline. It just provided a safer intersection, really. And we got the 36 wide road section with curb and gutter, and a heavier road section we designed to support 9-ton traffic loads. So this is kind of a summary of the final project costs. As you can see, the sanitary sewer PUC costs were right around 66 combined, 66,000. Storm sewer costs, project costs were right around 21,000. Services were at the 17,000. Street costs were a majority of the project costs at 296,000. And we had some additional street costs in the project along the way that we pulled out and put as kind of a city additional cost. So the total, you can see it is $439,000 what we're at right now, which is about 30% higher than what we're at feasibility. And those additions are due to some soil conditions we had during the project, and also the additional costs in the intersection of Highway 71 with the median. We had additional striping that we had to do. A majority of those costs were there. The city portion increased by around 38%. PUC costs increased, almost doubled at 74%. The PUC added around 150 feet of sanitary sewer and some water main on the project. So, and then for the accessible costs, we were able to kind of keep that lower, and only a 12% increase there. This just kind of shows the rate comparison from final assessment to feasibility. So for the PUC, we can see at the start of the project for the sanitary sewer, we had around $17,000 additional costs for that additional sewer. The water main, we originally proposed no water main improvements for the project, and we added some water main improvements, a hydrant, and a service, or the lead for the hydrant, and that was around $11,000. Storm sewer costs came in at the 2 cents higher than the rate, the original feasibility storm sewer rate. For sanitary service, we were right about where we had in feasibility for that, only 1% higher, and water service was around 18%, so it's generally close there. For street costs was the big jump, at least around 10%, but around $20 for that, but due to those additional costs what I talked about earlier. So for this project, we have three accessible properties: the Getty Street Assisted Living, the motel, and the city of Sauk Center own the lot. And so this spreadsheet, or the sheet, shows the feasibility costs, accessible costs, and the final accessible costs. So you can kind of see the difference. And if you remember, the feasibility or the accessible costs were only about a 12% increase from feasibility to final. So the Getty Street Assisted Living was an increase around $5,000. For the motel property, actually they had a decrease around $430 for overall for the two combined properties. And then the city property had an accessible cost of around $14,000 increase. So with that, I can turn it back to the council with any questions.
Okay. Questions of staff? Hearing nothing, we'll open it up to the public on this item. Is there anyone here that would like needs clarification? Is there anyone here that needs clarification on this? Okay.
I'd like to talk about this project.
Okay. Go to the podium, state your name and address.
I'm Joanne Thorson from the Gopher Prairie Inn, 1222 South Getty Street. I have a number of things written down. I don't know if you'd just like me to go through my list and then address them afterwards. But my first one that I'm going to mention is that when the assisted living home was built, however many years ago, the property there was raised, I think, 2 feet above street level. I'm not sure. It took away our natural waterway to drain anything from our property, and we flooded out in the spring. So the city put a French drain in, which has been working for us, and then we're very careful about keeping water away from our back door and not having the neighbor push their snow over our way. We see nothing now where this French drain water is supposed to go, because when it was done, it went into the ditch, or whatever you want to call it. I saw stuff pulled up. I have no idea what the final on that is. I don't want to be flooded out next spring again. No one ever talked to us on this project. Things just happened. The only way we could find out anything was when we'd go out to the street and talk to someone. Chuck did come up and talk to us several times about our driveway and the steepness of that. But for instance, one morning, there are contractors out there digging up our driveway, and we have customers, and that's our only, they ended up having to drive out the hill and go through the back in order to get out of our place. We weren't told that was going to happen that day, or that part of it would be so people could get out. I mean, I just didn't leave me in a very happy position. Our driveway is not what it used to be. I don't understand when you talk about different heights and different, it is still much steeper than what it used to be. I even had a customer the other day say, your driveway is really steep. Yeah, it is. I don't know what's going to happen this winter when we get ice and so forth. It's going to be not a good situation. Our phone line was cut one day, so we were without phone service for a full day, which did get repaired about 4 in the afternoon. I know that's not the city's fault, but the increased traffic on Getty Street now is very unreal. We have semis going there that we never used to have, and I guess you can see where a semi made a curve and cut a nice big track right into the new soil on the east side coming around the curve. We have people coming up and they turn around in our driveway way and go out. We have people coming. One thing I don't understand is right before you make a right-hand turn onto Getty Street is the big sign that says alternate I-94 route, and then it shows. So people are coming there to go out to get onto the interstate. I'm at a loss on that. 1 block away is Main Street, which goes there, so you wouldn't believe how much more traffic we have there. And we have our assisted living home next door with the elderly people out there that try to get out sometimes and so forth. To me, it's made it a lot more dangerous street than what it used to be. This has nothing to do with the Getty Street project, but the electrical box that sits on the corner of Getty Street and 12th Street. You have to pull up so far in order to be able to see traffic coming from the east. I have no idea why it had to be put so close to Getty Street and so close. It's bad. Yeah, it's on the east side of Getty and on the north side of 12th Street, is what I'm referring to. Those are, and I guess one of the things that, like I said, we were never really conferred with on things that were going on. If we wanted to find out what was happening, we had to go down and talk to the people. Not that they wouldn't talk to us, but we wrote a letter to the city and the council way last spring saying anytime something was going to be happening, please let us know, or so that we or a representative of ours could go to attend the meeting. And we never ever heard anything from anybody.
Okay.
So,
Thank
do you
you.
have any more questions of me?
Questions, Joanne? Thank you, Joanne. You want to address those, Chuck?
Yes. So for the storm sewer, their drain, we did run a 6-inch PVC pipe that connects to your yard drain. So that will, yep, so that will drain out to Beltline ditch. So that should be taken care of. For the increased traffic, for the people turning in thinking it's I-94 ramp, I have working with MnDOT, we're gonna perhaps install a couple more additional signs to hopefully prevent any people from turning in there thinking it's the on-ramp. So hopefully we can deter people from turning in there and you know, show them where the actual on-ramp is for that. Then for the driveway grade question, so the existing driveway they had was around 12% grade. We were able to get, we had to go back a little further when I worked with Joanne, but we were able to get it down to about 11%, which it fits in the allowable, just usually 12% or lower is what we try to hit. 8% is desirable, but they do sit up really high, so we're able to get it to 11%, which is still allowable.
What was the percent grade beforehand?
Around 12%,
12, so it's basically 1%, but
less.
not noticeable. That 1% is pretty tough to,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Not going to make much of a difference.
It's,
Right. That's right. So,
it's hard to notice the difference between 11 and 12%, yes.
okay.
But it is less, but.
The other question that I've got toward you is the communication thing. I
Sure,
think Dan Salo was the man on that, right?
correct.
So does he got records or anything like that of, or how does he do that?
Yep, he should have daily field observation reports that he does when they're out on site. It was kind of so we can look back to see what sort of communication there was with the owners there.
Okay.
I have a question. Joanne brought up something about that electrical box up there, and I've had other people complain to me too. It's hard to see around that intersection. Do they have any plans of moving that or improving that intersection?
That would be an item we'd have to discuss at another time because
Yeah.
it's not part of this project or this public hearing, not to, so
Yeah,
rather than get into that
Yeah,
discussion
okay.
right now.
yeah.
Anything else, Chuck, you want to add? Otherwise, I'll see if there's someone else that wants to speak on this.
Did I address everything, Joanne, or did you have something I missed?
Well, I didn't bring it up, but we know about the unfinished, but that's.
Oh, so, good point, thank you. So we're working with Joanne to come up with maybe alternative design for a boulder retaining wall along their kind of on the
South
north side
corner.
of the driveway. We're going to plan to grade back like we did with the Getty Street Assisted Living, about a 4-to-1 slope, but it wasn't desirable to them, so we looked at a different option. We're still working with them on that.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this project? So, you want to go up to the podium, state your name and address?
Dave Thorson, 122 South Getty Street, in reference to the Getty Street improvement. Your picture itself showed no box there. That box, that new box is new. That electrical box is new with this whole street configuration and has just made that corner literally an accident waiting to happen. You have to creep out into, if you're coming from the north, coming down Getty Street, and you get to 12th Street, looking to the right, to the west, out Beltline is still clear, like it's always been. But looking to the east, towards past the store, trying to look past the storage sheds, whatever, that box is literally in the complete wrong spot. So that is just one of the things. Everything else, I have a lot to say in the matter, but not a lot to say on the matter, but not a lot to say in the matter, so I'm going to have to just hold my tongue at this point.
Okay,
And thank you for the opportunity to speak.
thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Coons, and my address is 36254 County Road 13, Melrose. And I would just like to say that I had been considering purchasing the motel as a possibility, but the whole project has really held things up, and I don't find it to be an improvement and considerable waste of taxpayer money, I might say, and an improvement to your lot, but not an improvement to anybody else's lot, and has definitely held me up in purchasing a motel from the Thorsons that they've been trying and waiting to sell. But it's really, I called the city and I knew that that project was happening, so it's been held up for 2 years for sure, and it's just been not a good thing for them or for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the project? one last time. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on the project? Vicki?
I have 2 written objections.
Okay.
The first one is to Mayor Stone and City Council members. I'm objecting to the final assessment of Getty Street from Beltline to Trunk Highway 71. Our assessed amount for Getty Street Assisted Living is $44,893, which is 25% of the total project. I feel the assessed amount exceeds the value that is derived from this project. The city is who is benefiting from moving the road. It will not benefit to our building to have the road 100 feet closer to our building. When the city's property sells, we will have increased traffic, more noise in an area where there was very little traffic and no noise. All of these things devalue our property. Our residents are on our fixed income, and this 25% will be passed on to them, which will be a great hardship for them. Thank you for your consideration. Mary Jo Marthaler, Getty Street Assisted Living. And so because she has objected, then that will go on the record that she filed it timely. The second one says, Dear Ms. Willer, real estate matter, Wayne and Joanne Thorson, pursuant to Minnesota Statute 429061 and 429051, we are objecting with regard to the special assessment for the Getty Street improvement. In particular, we are objecting to the assessment for 2 parcels we own adjoining Getty Street, and she lists the parcel numbers and the amounts. The basis for our objection is that the proposed amount of the special assessment exceeds the benefit to our property resulting from the improvement. Before the project, Getty Street was in serviceable condition, and the construction and relocation of Getty Street had more to do with increasing the marketability and value of the city-owned property, which it was attempting to sell, than increase any benefit to our property. As a result of the construction, the relocation of Getty Street, if anything, has decreased the value of our property. We have lost valuable parking for semi-trailers, and we have lost use of a large portion of our property that was previously within the right-of-way but unimproved. Finally, and the resulting construction remains incomplete. We are asking that the City Council reject the proposed assessment for these parcels because our property has not benefited by the improvements and in fact has and continues to be harmed by the Getty Street project, and it's signed by Wayne and Joanne Thorson.
Okay. Thank you. Any last comments from council?
Can I just ask regarding the Getty Street objection, when she said they're under the impression that they're being assessed 25% of the total cost of the project?
That's what she says.
Can we just verify that with your, just to clarify?
I think what she's looking at is 25% of maybe the amount assessed.
Accessible.
Versus then the total project.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
I think the total project is 400 and, wrong page. 439, and they're 44,000, about 10%.
10%. Okay.
And also on that same letter, I think she stated moving the road 100 feet, but I think it's closer to 32, 40?
40.
Okay, right. Just to clarify, it wasn't 100 feet, that it wasn't moved over, only 40, so. Okay, we'll move on to the public hearing for the proposed assessment for the North Utility Project.
Okay, Mayor and Council, we'll get started with this one. Once again, we'll have a short presentation just to kind of talk about what the purpose was for the project, where we are at right now with the project, and where the costs are with the project as it relates to the assessments. Now I'll turn it back to the council for the field questions from the audience. The project in the dash shows where the total project is at, Country Club, 5th Street, 4th Street North, as well as Lakeshore Drive, Elm Street, Oak Street North, and Main Street from 4th Street all the way up to Lakeshore Drive. This is in 2 phases, so only portions of the project are done at this point in time. 4th Street, 5th Street, the south block of Oak Street and Main Street are completed at this point in time. The remainder will be done in 2019. Just to show us where we looked at the infrastructure improvements, there were many issues in this area, water main issues, sanitary sewer issues that were old, aging, deteriorating. Water main was undersized, old, aging as well as the street was getting old and brittle as well and aging. This kind of talks a little bit about that. Water main 60, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but 60, 70 years old. A lot of it was 4 inches. Sanitary was over 70 years old. Storm sewer, a lot of it was lacking. There was just not much storm sewer up there, which contributed to some of the flooding problems we have down the street on Main Street and Lakeshore, just by the gas station there. And then the aging, the streets were aging, losing flexibility, lots of cracks. The foundation was actually quite good up there, and we saw that even through construction. Goals, once again, is to loop that water main and to increase the fire capacities up there, replace that infrastructure, replace the aging infrastructure of the sanitary. We have some additional depth so that we have the ability to provide gravity service to additional parcels, basically north of Country Club and to the east side of Main Street. Storm sewer is to provide just in general an overall storm sewer system that gets us our 10-year capacity and a reduction of that flooding at Main Street and Lake Street, and to replace those aging streets that are up there. At this point in time, as I mentioned, at this point in time, what was done next year will be that other portion of the project. All those costs were estimated to the best of our ability for that second portion of the project. We feel very confident and comfortable with the numbers that we have in here. They are not, they're close. We're very close to what we think that the actual final number will be. These are our final project costs. Their totals, if you just look at the project cost, total is $4.1 million. That is a 11% reduction from the estimates that we had in the feasibility, if you look at the very bottom there. City costs are about a 17% reduction. It's $1.1 million versus $1.3 million that we had originally estimated. The PUC costs went up just a little bit, less than 1% there. From the final numbers to the feasibility report, 1.68 million roughly, and the assessable cost in total went down 18%, down to 1.3 million total from the original feasibility comparison of $1.6 million. So a reduction for all. These are once again a rate comparison. You can kind of see where things are at with this. The sanitary sewer, this is what a PUC cost, went down about $3,000 or $3,000, so very close there. Water main actually went up slightly. Once again, this generally is related to how they priced, how they set the pricing in their bids. So that went up about 15.7 for that. Storm sewer pricing actually went down by 9 cents per square foot by a 26% reduction. Sanitary sewer went down 26%, $347, excuse me, sanitary service, sewer service. Water main service actually went up just slightly, $142. That's a 11% increase for that particular bid item. And then the streets themselves went down $16.49 per lineal foot, or a 13% reduction in our overall streets. So those assessments went down overall for all parties are up there. This once again shows the work remaining. The dash shows what will be done in 2019. The solid line shows what was completed in 2018. We'd expect that work to get started again. It depends on the spring, but probably late April, early May is when we'll get started again in 2019. There will be a couple of the ponds. There's 2 ponds. I'll actually kind of point, unless is it in one? It's in the slide, yeah. There it is, the next one. It shows where those 2 ponds are located. Those will be dug this winter. They tend to probably get started here fairly shortly, maybe in the first part of November. They've actually, we had them dig portions of the Main Street pond so that we had some drainage to get that infiltration off the roadway. That was always the plan. We just need to get that pond under contract and dug, and that has been started already. But those will be completed over the winter time and will be fully functional when we get to the spring of 2019. These are what those ponds generally look like. This is the Main Street pond. It's just kind of a rectangular pond, north-south direction. It's got a little ditch. It goes across the fairways to the west and then ends up overflowing in just over ground down and ultimately down to the Lakeshore pond that's by Lakeshore Drive. And that's kind of what that pond will ultimately look like. You can kind of see the green if you're familiar with it. It's kind of in that upper left corner. That's where that green is located. There's those tree line, you can kind of see in the bottom kind of where those numbers are at. So kind of orient you where that pond is going to be. There's actually some blue flags out there, so you can kind of see roughly where that pond will be. So with that finalizes my formal presentation, and I'll throw it back to the mayor for address any questions you may have.
Questions of staff? Concerns? Okay, we'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against or needs clarification for this project? Is there anyone here? Go ahead. You want to come up to the microphone and state your name and address, please?
Bob Service, 556 Main Street North. First question is, I'd like to know how you arrive at these assessments for each property. And then my property is the first lot south of the assisted living house of Fairway Pines. In the north 66 feet of my property already has the water service line and the sewer line installed in it before we bought the property. And when we signed the contract to buy the property, that 66 feet was included. But if the 80-acre field between us and Eagle's Nest was ever zoned, we would have to give the city that 66 feet. I'm wondering if the assessment for this project right now is shared with the city, or if I'm paying for that 66 feet by myself.
Vicky or Keith or?
Address your questions here. First of all, as it relates to, you were talking about sewer and water in there. I just want to be real clear that all sewer and water mainline, not the services, but all sewer and water mainline, all those costs are paid for by the PUC. So those are not included in any of the assessments for any parcel that's up there. Secondly, you asked about just how assessments were done in general, and they are done on each basis for the sewer and water services. Those are on a per each basis for each of those individually. The street costs are on a lineal foot basis by your front foot of your property. Corner lots, if they're over 150 feet in depth, they get a credit for 150 feet. If they happen to be over 150 feet in depth, there's another, whatever that difference is, and that total is included in their lineal foot for the street costs. And storm sewer costs are divided on a square foot basis over the area of the parcel itself. So that's how the storm sewer, or excuse me, all the assessment costs are arrived at in the first place. And in terms of your property with the 66 feet, help me if I'm wrong, Chuck, but I think that 66 is not included, correct? Yeah, on this one, it's not included. So it's the parcel less that 66 feet on this particular parcel.
Okay.
The only services I have are electric and gas on Main Street North. My water service is 66 feet.
Right, we didn't touch those, and any other utilities or excuse me, gas, those kind of things, those are not included in any of these kinds of costs.
So I'm wondering, 15,000 is an awful high price, I think, for an assessment.
I'm not sure, it depends on the size of your parcel as it relates to the length of your front footage for the streets. So you would have streets and storm sewer assessments primarily, because you don't have sewer and water. So you would have street and storm sewer is what you would be paying for.
Does that answer your question, Bob? Very good.
It's 100, just as an example for the council, it's 166 front feet for the, which is, you know, twice kind of what we might see on many of the lots up there. So
Okay.
it's a large lot.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor, against, or clarification? In the back?
Jeremy Sunderman, 524 Fifth Street North. I still have a problem with the storm sewer portion of this project. I still feel that it shouldn't be put on us to pay for this. This is something new. This is not something that we fixed. This is something we put in. There's 3 ponds, actually. There's one on 4th Street as well. That's all new. That benefits the whole city of Sauk Center. That is not something that benefits us up north. That is for, it showed right up there, for Main Street is a big part of that runoff problem. Well, that isn't just me. That's everybody who drives on Main Street. So I have a problem with us paying for the stormwater portion of this project. As far as the costs go, I mean, they were just off 30% on a bid. I think it's hard to swallow them projecting a cost on this when they just said that they were off by 30%. That is a big number. So for us to pay a bill on a bill that no one knows, it's hard to take too. So I just had those couple things. I think the stormwater is all of our biggest issue, that it's something brand new, and it's something that doesn't just benefit us up there, it's for the whole city, as well as that sidewalk or trail that they put in that the whole city uses up there. So it's not just a sidewalk in front of anybody's house. Again, it's something new. The golf course is a very popular track for people to walk around. Obviously, it's for that. That's for the whole city. So that's another thing that I think should be spread across the city of Sauk Center. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy.
The only thing I'll just add to that is that the assessment policies, everything was done here according to our assessment policies that we currently have with storm sewer. So without changes, obviously, by the council about those, that's how the assessments were arrived at.
Right. One question that I've got is on he mentioned the trail or the sidewalk that's going up Main Street. That was basically city cost, right?
I was just asking Chuck to see if I could verify, but I'm
So that
quite sure that
wasn't
is
anything that we
taken out.
added to anybody's assessments
Yeah.
just because of that?
But that's part of the city side of things.
Right, okay. I just wanted to make sure that was understood, so. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes.
John Egan, 524 North Rome Street. I too have a problem with the storm sewer. I don't think that should be assessed to this project. I don't think it should be assessed at all to any of the landowners here. If you go back in your minutes from years ago when this was all adopted, and we pay the storm sewer assessment fee monthly, I believe that was supposed to take care of part of that. If you look back, we found that last fall in the meeting when we had it before here. If you go back and look, I think that was supposed to be addressed with the stormwater fees. And I mean, if we're going to pay fees and we're still going to get assessed, I'm not quite understanding. I think it's almost like double dipping. And I don't think that's real fair to citizens of Sauk Center, period. I think that's something the city should prepare for, and they should be stepping up and taking care of that. Like Jeremy says, it's a project and a problem throughout the city. It is benefiting Main Street and everyone else. I mean, everybody drives up and down Main Street, uses the streets. I think it benefits there. So that's kind of mine on the storm sewer. I'm totally against it. I don't think that should be assessed to this project at all, or to the landowners. As far as North Main Street, I question why that was made an urban street going up along that golf course design instead of an rural. Why do we put curb on there? Why do we put storm sewer through there? Why didn't we just leave it as a rural design, no curb, let the water run in the ditch like it has for how many years? We don't bring all that in there. We don't bring all that cost into there. Why bring that water down there? No sense to it. I don't see anything gaining there at all. Just seems like a lot of cost for nothing. Now, if urban design is something that's desired by the council, fine, but I don't see the gain. I think it's a lot of money wasted. Also, he's saying, granted, I understand the PUC picks up the water and the storm or the sewer. Well, let's not forget that's, it's going to get carried back to the landowners in rates. It's got to get paid for somewhere. Yeah, maybe it's not on the project, but the rates, utilities got to make it somewhere, make it up. So it's, it's not a freebie. I mean, it's not like standing up here and saying it's a freebie. It's not. We're going to pay for it in rates or somewhere. It's got to be made up. So I guess that's all I have to say, but it's just some points that I was looking at.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anything, nothing? No answer. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor, against, or need clarification? Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor, against, or give clarification?
Mayor, just one thing I'd like to just reminder, it was, the council did, if you recall, we deliberated between rural section, urban section on Main Street, and so that was a deliberate, decision that the council did make along that design process.
Right. One last time, is there anyone here?
My name is Katie Leslie. I live at 538 Lakeshore. I noticed with this project going on during the school season, the whole month of September, my 3 kids' safety was a big concern with the road construction going on. Every day they didn't know where to get on the bus at because our bus could not go down our road. So that meant them and the neighbor kids having to walk to the golf course. It also meant when they were doing the work on Lake Shore on the side of the golf course, the west side, there was all the big machinery and equipment there. So my kids had to be watched and making sure they were keeping track of everybody else along with. My kids are 11, 8, and 6. Their attention spans aren't like adults to be watching everything. And it really was a horrible experience for them for the whole month of September because the bus driver couldn't go down our road, couldn't go down neighboring streets, so my kids had to walk to find the bus. And let alone the bus driver couldn't get through because he was told he couldn't go down there. He tried to get in contact with the city to find out when roads would be open for the kids to get on and off the bus. Our neighbor kid was too afraid to walk home, so my daughter would walk him home. It was a big safety concern because my kids walking to that spot hoping that their bus driver would pick them up safely, and there's all these big machinery backing up and going around. And I know my kids can't be the only ones that were blocked on that road. So that is a big safety concern, especially now that you're mentioning starting phase 2 in April and May. Are my kids gonna go through that again now for the whole month of April and May of having to figure out where to get on the bus in safety with all these machinery and equipment? On your notice you guys sent out to us property owners, you say that safety is a big concern and to make sure that your kids are away from construction work. How are they supposed to get to school and get on the bus when from day to day they didn't know where to get on the bus because our roads were blocked, nor did the bus driver. So that was a big safety concern I want to bring up. Another thing I noticed is the driveways on people's roads. My driveway right now, I drive an Expedition. My beepers go off saying there's somebody behind me because that's how steep my driveway is. I noticed on the new driveways being inserted, the road looks like it was dropped. Not just an inch or two, quite a bit. So what's my driveway gonna now be? Is my truck gonna be sitting up like this with the way the road's going to be? Because it looks like all the driveways are slanted more and there's more of an arch versus your 12 or 11% slope. That's a concern. Another concern is the easement letter we got saying that they're going to be taking easements on the back alleyway between Lake Shore and I think our neighboring street is Elm. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm still new to the area. Not all of the houses are being taken their easements. Not everybody's getting the 10-foot easement taken permanent structure from them. If it's an alleyway, you would think that all the homes would be getting the easements on them, but they're not. So I don't know why one home would be getting an easement and one would not be. Also, I wanted to make a comment. At the last meeting in the fall I came to, I made the comment about material prices going up of construction, and I was told at the meeting that the prices were locked in and not to worry about it, but yet it shows on the Getty Street project going up 30%. What's the North project going to go up if that's gone up 30%? And I was told that the rates were locked in for material costs. That's just my concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
try to go maybe in reverse order as it relates, because I remember them best. In terms of the bid prices, bids are locked in, so what we have this year will be the same prices we have next year. They will not change. Let's see, there was one about the driveways. I know we were just looking at, in this particular case, the road is changing very little in front of her particular home, so there shouldn't be much of a difference. We will look at those driveways, and just like we do all of them, and make sure that it's go back far enough so that it's a reasonable slope. It will not be anything like 11-12% slope for any driveways in this particular project, much much flatter than that. There are some that have changed because we have changed some of the street grades in order to promote drainage. We do that so that basically the pavement section stays together. The longer water kind of sits on those and slows down, it sits on that pavement, it goes in and it starts to cause an issue, especially with those freeze-thaw cycles. So we have slight, and actually we've actually went down from sort of minimum design standards, typically our 0.5% slope, and we've actually gone down to 0.4% slope, which is very flat. But there are many roads up there, Oak Street being one of them, Lake Shore being one as well, that are in Main Street, a portion of Main Street that's very, very flat, and to provide some drainage for those roadways. As it relates to safety, safety definitely is very important for us. We have and will continue and endeavor to do a better job with the bus company to talk to them, the school, about where maybe we'll establish a specific bus stop so that they can always go to one spot. But obviously things could have been maybe a little bit better this year, but we'll work closer with the school to see if we can resolve any of those issues as we move forward into 19, so we don't have any of those issues of knowing where so the kids don't know where they're going to. So we certainly don't want that. Easements, on the easements for the alley, there are some parcels that actually already have easements, so we don't need easements on those properties. I'm guessing that's probably the reference to, or what's being seen there, because all properties that we need easements from, we are getting them from, but there are some on the south end that we already have easements on through those. I don't know if there's anything else missing, but I think that was the majority.
Everything's pretty much covered, I think, on that. As far as worrying about an increase with the assessment you received in the mail, that's not going to go up, because it's what you received is the actual.
Right, and once the assessments, assuming you approve them tonight, that's what goes to the taxes, and it won't change at that point.
Right, even if there was a huge spike in material costs, you won't see that, because what you received is what is locked in. So, and the contractors held to that price for this year, or what they bid on. So, is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor, against?
Jim Super, 515 Oak Street North. I guess basically I would just like a clarification about that piece of paper that we got. It kind of sounded like the amount that was highlighted that, I mean, nobody has really told us how we're going to pay for this. I mean, explained it to us. I saw the 4.2 or 4.25%. It kind of sounds like that's what I'm going to get assessed if I don't pay it yet this year.
Okay.
And I have a hard time paying for things that aren't done. My street isn't done yet. So I have a hard time paying for a project and, it's not completed. I know I'm going to get hit next year, but, I guess, you pay for something that's not done.
Right.
I've never done that before.
Okay. Vicki or Keith want to explain the...
Yeah, the interest rate is 4.25%, which is 1% right over what our actual money is, and that's what pays for the city. admin expenses to do that as well for the funding of the whole project. It's over a 15-year period that it gets levied against their taxes, so they pay twice a year, or if there's a mortgage, they generally probably pay it with their monthly, but essentially it's twice a year that you pay that for the next 15 years. So it's amortized over that period at the 4.25%. They can pay it early. If they pay it before, what's the date this year? November 15th of this year, they can pay all or a portion thereof, and then that doesn't get certified, and therefore you don't pay interest on that amount. You can pay monies at really any time over that 15 years to pay it down if you wish, but that's entirely the individual landowner's decisions to make.
Vicki, you wanna, I know it's probably putting you on the spot, but can you explain why we're doing the assessments before the project's even done?
So this is a unique project in that it's going over a period of 2 years, and so the city had to incur the cost of bonding, and so we did the bond, as you recall, a couple months ago. We received the money for the project, and so then our payments start beginning the 1st of 2020, so we have to collect the funds in 19 so that we're able to make that payment in February of 2020. And so that is why, even though the project isn't complete yet, we're having this hearing now, then they would start paying in May of 19, even though in May of 19 it's not going to be completely done yet. But it's all based on when we borrow the money for the project. And we did borrow the money. We looked ahead and saw that interest rates were expected to start climbing, and so we wanted to get in on the lower interest rate while we could. And then we have those funds sitting in an escrow right now so that we can pay the bill as it comes in. So it really was a function of the funding, our funding for the project is the timing.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor, against, or clarification? One last time, is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor, against, or have clarification on the project? Thank you. We'll move on to our fourth and final public hearing, liquor license revocation. We'll take action on all of this later. Public hearing on liquor license.
Okay, this is the public hearing regarding the Alphagone on-sale liquor license that they hold with the city. City Code Section 113.13 states that cancellation or termination of insurance coverage shall be grounds for revocation of a license. The City Code also dictates that no revocation or suspension shall take effect until the licensee has been afforded an opportunity for a hearing before the City Council. In addition to the absence of insurance, the check for the payment of the license was returned for insufficient funds, and we've been unable to collect that to date. So this is the hearing now to the City Council to consider what we want to do about that liquor license. A certified letter was sent to Alphagone notifying him of this letter. He did come into the office and talk to me today. He has told me that he did get the funding. He's going to the cities tonight to pick it up, that he's going to be in tomorrow morning to pay me. I did call the insurance company, and they as well said that he told them the same thing. And then I also offered him the opportunity to repay the liquor license fee to the city in a payment plan. And he has told me that he actually has the money to pay it in full. And so he came to me today and pled the city to give him a few more days to get that money into the city. And I see no reason why you might not want to do that, to give him one more chance. But we also have him set up with the SBDC. He's going to St. Cloud and meeting with them regarding a business plan, so he completely understands how his taxes need to be paid, his license fees need to be paid, his insurance, sales tax, and all of those. So they're working with him, with an interpreter, to help his business become more successful. And so he basically was throwing himself on my mercy to come to the council and to see if you would just grant him another week or another couple days to come in and make it right. He does understand that if the city council decides to take action and to revoke that license now, that he would have to surrender his license to the city. So yeah, I guess it's in your hands at this point, and that's something that you'll take action on. He was not going to be in attendance this evening because he couldn't, his business is open right now, so he couldn't come in. But he did, that's what I'm conveying to you on his behalf.
Okay. Questions?
Is he currently serving alcoholic beverages?
Yes, he has like, is it Tecate and margaritas, I think, and that type of thing.
Okay, but with no insurance?
We got notification that his insurance had lapsed, and then they've reinstated a couple times, and then it lapses, so it's kind of constant state of flux.
Okay. But if we do give him until Monday, can he at least stop serving it until he has proof of insurance? I mean, that's kind of like gambling.
I mean, we certainly can ask him to do that. I mean, we could tell him that he has to discontinue serving until we're made whole.
I don't know.
Whether we're going to be able to enforce that without parking someone over there, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
One thing
But we
is
could probably get volunteers.
we can discuss that in the action part of the,
Okay.
for right now, it's just a public hearing on this.
Oh.
Is there anyone on the council have any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I will ask the public if there's, on this item on the liquor license revocation, if they have any comments, if they for, against, or need clarification. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this topic for opposing, for, or clarification? One last time, is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item for, against, or need clarification? Seeing no one, our public hearings are now closed. We will now reconvene our regular council meeting. Action items. Approve Resolution 2018-83 approving assessments for unpaid charges.
This is the resolution, as you said, I guess you just said it. What we would do is we would notify these people that this has been adopted by the city council. If you do so. If they pay it by November 15th, then it will not be certified. If it gets paid after, if they come in after November 15th, it will already been sent in, and then they would have to pay interest on it to the end of the year at the county level. So the proposal tonight is Resolution 2018-83, adopting the assessment roll for the unpaid city and utility service charges. These are for the 6 properties that we discussed in the public hearing.
Questions? Comments?
3 of those properties are ones that we just, we didn't take action, but we were informed that this county's working with us to lower the value or to lower the offered price of.
There's 3 properties in there that were tax forfeit that the city had to maintain during that forfeiture. There is an auction sale coming up on November 13th where the county will be having an auction sale for those properties. I have notified them that these unpaid service charges are out there. So in addition to the ones that were previously certified, if we adopt this, then we would also collect these amounts at that time. So those 3 that are state of Minnesota, we don't actually have them certified. This just puts them on notice that that'll be collected.
Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2018-83 adopting assessment of unpaid utility and service charges?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. Any other comments? Call the question, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7B, approve Resolution 2018-84 approving assessments for Getty Street.
This is, again, the resolution for the Getty Street project. Because we only had 2 properties that we were assessing and both filed written objections, they would be they'd be taken out of that assessment roll until we have the opportunity to work with them on that because they filed the objection. So this might be something you just want to table until we have the opportunity to meet with both of them. And then you would probably be asked to adopt the assessment or some other arrangement at the next council meeting.
Okay.
So the action tonight would be to table this assessment.
Comments? Concerns?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's fine.
General consensus?
Yep.
That we
That's fine.
table this item until the next meeting. so we can work with those two properties. 7C, approve resolution 2018-85, approving assessments for North Utility Project.
Okay, the assessment roll, and you were provided all of that, and I do have added detail if anybody has questions about that. This is the action subsequent to the public hearing earlier. You should carefully consider the comments made at the public hearing prior to adopting the assessment roll. If you feel the assessment roll is appropriate, then you should move to adopt the attached resolution. The assessments presented are the gross amount of the assessment. The city does have an agreement with Center Graphics. If you looked at the Center Graphic assessment on there, we do have an agreement where he'll be doing the pond construction, and we have an easement, so that there will be a kind of a payment, if you will, against that assessment. Also on the Main Streeter apartments, when we first did that abatement contract, so much money was set aside towards this project, so that money that was set aside will pay their assessment down. Other than that, all the other assessments are as presented. There is one property that had a water and sewer service less than 5 years old, and we were able to utilize a percentage of the water and sewer service, the curb box, et cetera. That was Jim Anderson. And so if the council deems it appropriate, we could give a 50% credit on the sewer service line and then a 25% on the water. And so if you look at those water and sewer service amounts that he had on the screen earlier, he would probably see about an $800 or $900 credit against his assessment for that water and sewer service that we were able to reuse and did not have to purchase and put in. So other than that, then we also have the comments that were made regarding the storm sewer assessments. And as Keith reiterated, that is the city's assessment policy, that we assess that 50%. And so if the city council were to deviate from that, they would first have to change that assessment policy or understand that that would be a change to the assessment policy if they were to grant some kind of relief from that percentage. But at this point, at the staff level or the city engineer level, we don't have the authority to make that change. I don't think there was any other things that had to do with the assessment that we need to address, which is the issue that we're talking about right now.
Questions? Comments? I think all the points that we received in the public hearing were well noted. As far as stormwater, I think it's something that it's going to be a continuing process to look at. I don't know if there's anything policy change as of right now we'd be able to do, legally without doing due process. So, anyone have any other questions or comments?
Would you, Dave, being on Public Utilities, be able to comment on John's statement about us, as property owners, that we are paying our stormwater fees on our monthly bill? And to your knowledge, how is that applied moving forward, or
The
applied in
stormwater
general?
fee?
No.
As what John was saying, how
Well,
it should be.
he's talking about utility bills.
Water and
I mean, the stormwater fee is collected on behalf of the city. It's not collected for the utility. I mean, it's on the bill, that just happens to be how the city collects it.
Okay, so then Vicki, would you be able to clarify his comments referring to years ago, how that assessment would be applied?
Okay, so the stormwater utility, when the city council adopted it, they adopted it for the purpose of maintaining our storm sewer system, and then they also identified infrastructure projects that could benefit from money being applied to it. And those were, we had flooding back in those days, if you recall the different flooding areas, and the one was down at the bottom of Lake Street, like on Main Street up there. One was out here on Fifth and the viaduct, and then the third one was, what was the third one? Oh, I guess the other one was down south on Getty Street, down by F&W.
Yeah.
And so those projects were slated kind of to receive, we could, if we got a revenue bond, that we could put money from the storm utility to help pay the revenue bond, to help pay, to take care of some of those flooding costs. And I think what John was referring to is we're paying this utility fee, it should be taking care of all of that infrastructure, and that rather than just limit it to those three areas that we kind of discussed at the time, that it should be that should take care of all of our storm sewer issues throughout the city, whether that it results in an increase in the fee or however we handle it. But that the thought was, because we're paying that storm sewer utility fee, that should take care of all our storm sewer. We shouldn't have to pay to replace that. And so that's kind of what he was thinking. And so that would be, we did talk about infrastructure at the time it was set up. We were kind of limited in our scope of what projects we were talking about, because we were talking about flooding areas. We weren't talking about installing new or fixing in other areas. So that's a policy decision of the city council. If it's something you think you want to do, you want to raise that utility fee and then take those funds and allocate them to projects. It doesn't generate a lot of money to pay for a project. I mean, it would have to be probably a pretty good increase in the fee in order to continue to keep up with what we need to do for storm sewer. But, and that was kind of the same issue that was brought up in the preliminary hearing was, why are we paying for the storm sewer? We're paying a utility fee already. But it's a little bit two different things. You know, one we're paying for maintenance and we're paying for these flooding areas, and the other we're paying in neighborhoods. So that was where the council drew the line before. I don't know if the line can move.
Weren't we limited as to how the wording was of that fee? That we could only spend a percentage, that it was to be used primarily for maintenance?
That was how we had set it up. Yeah, the primary focus of it was for maintenance, but then these flooding areas came up, so then we also set it up to take care of the flooding areas.
Okay, but I'm sure that was exhausted for the next few years to come probably because of those projects.
Right, and we bonded to take care of the flooding areas and got those fixed, and so now a lot of the funds that come in from the utility are transferred into that revenue bond payment.
Yeah.
That's why in order to start taking more bond payment out every year, we'd have to increase the fee to make up for that.
Yeah, thank you. And now we're actually going to be looking at incentives for landowners being able to bring that fee down, correct?
We do have some commercial property owners that are requesting credits. And so that's something the council will be looking at in the next couple meetings.
So it's, you know, maintenance could be the only use for that stormwater fee in the not too distant future, just thinking.
Well, I think, just to clarify, my understanding is the way that's worded, it says it's to pay additional costs for stormwater lines that are upsized.
It's kind of, it has to do more with the trunk lines, yeah.
Yeah, and they have to be above a certain size before it really kicks in, because they're not really trunk lines until they get up to, I don't know, whatever it's 24 inches or 18 inches or whatever it was. I don't know that that applies to any of this up there.
And we did talk about that quite a bit at the original hearing, and whether this even would fit into that whole thing. In the meantime, we were able to bring down the cost of the stormwater, a couple $100,000.
Yep.
And so we felt that we were going in the right direction, but it still is, there's still an assessment according to our current policy.
Right. Any other questions, comments?
Just one quick question here.
Okay.
I don't know if it's on here. Yeah, it's not here. What is the stormwater portion of this whole project?
When you had this sheet up there, it's 515,000 or 500 and something? 531? 531,000 of the 4.1 million.
All right.
And then half of that is assessed, so 200, and I think it's 265,000, about that is what's
Okay.
assessed of the 4-point-something million project.
Okay. I was just, I don't have the breakdown here on the paperwork, so I had to ask.
It's fine.
Any other questions, comments? It's council's wishes. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2018-85, adopting the assessment roll for the North Area project?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second by Heidi. Any other last comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7D, approve resolution 2018-86, acting on foregone liquor license.
So this is the action subsequent to the public hearing regarding the liquor license revocation. And so I guess we have two different actions you can pick, either revoke it effective today or revoke it effective a certain date if payment and insurance is not received.
Comments?
I feel like, I mean, if he had zero intent to, keep his business up and running, we wouldn't have heard from him or have him show any interest to ask us to work with him. I think he wants to make a go of it and still keep it going. But Keith, you brought up the point of maybe temporarily asking him to halt. How do we police it? I'm not sure, but
That would be hard to enforce, I think.
It's probably hard to enforce, but if it comes, at least we may have a leg to stand on, God forbid something happen.
Well, I think, it's my understanding that we don't bear the liability
Right.
anyway.
Right.
No, we don't.
It's not city liability in this case. He doesn't have insurance.
I bet you'd
Yeah,
be
everybody
able to
gets
find a
listed, I
lawyer
know.
that'll take that on.
There's always the deep pocket series that everybody gets claimed in their liability suit. My suggestions, considering that he's did now come forward and she spoke on behalf, is we give him until 4:30 Friday to have everything in order. That's 2 more days.
Yep.
It's already been since the beginning of July that he's been in violation of it. I think we've been more than lenient. 2 more days. After that, he's notified, then at any point in time, law enforcement walks in and he's serving.
Good.
That's when we go, the next shoe will drop.
Yep.
At least he's working with us. We're trying to work with him, even though this probably should have happened a few months ago rather than wait this long. But that's my suggestion. You're the council. You get to decide if you want to go with that or not.
No, I agree. We have assurances that he has the money and intends to pay it, so I think that's fine. I would,
And if you got the money, then you should be able to come up
Yep.
with it in 2 days.
yep. So I think that being the case,
Oh.
I will make a motion that we revoke effective 4:30 PM Friday, it'd be the 19th, I
Be the
guess.
19th.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Dave, second by Diane. Everybody understand the motion? Okay. Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7E, approve resolution 2018-87, entering into contract for pond construction.
As part of the agreement with Center Graphics providing for the stormwater pond easements on the golf course, we do have a provision that allows the city to construct the ponds at Center Graphics' expense. Center Graphics has now come forward to us and asked for us to proceed with a contract. Keith Yap has been working with Center Graphics on the pond design and construction, and the Center Graphics has requested that we provide for the construction of the ponds. We did receive written quotes from Breitbach, who is our contractor on the main project, and then also Ilgen Excavating at the request of Brady Click from Center Graphics. And we do have the estimate from Breitbach is $106,242, and from Ilgen Excavating is $78,976. So we're recommending that the city enter into the contract with Ilgen Excavating for the pond construction according to the agreement with the costs assessed or paid by Center Graphics. And so Center Graphics has the option to either allow us to put it on the taxes for the golf course, or he would pay that in cash. And so, and we already have that that's all in our written agreement, signed agreement that we already have. So we're looking to approve resolution 2018-87, entering into the contract with Ilgen Excavating for construction of the 2 storm ponds.
Comments? Questions? Basically, this is approving the building of the pond by going with the cheaper bid, which is basically Center Graphics bill, but that we understand what's happening here. So, do I have a motion to approve resolution 2018-87, entering into contract with Ilgen Excavating?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Keith, seconded by Diane. Any other last comments, questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7F, approve ordinance 779 amending city code.
Okay, so the Planning Commission met last Tuesday, and they had a couple different public hearings, and I did forward to you the ordinance amendments that they are recommending. One of them talks about impervious surface and lot coverage amendments. Another one expands the definition of recreation vehicle to include the wheelhouses, which are the ice castle-type fish houses. And we amended the exterior storage of recreational vehicles by removing the restriction on winter storage and adding language on the storage area, the maintenance and uses of living quarters. So that's kind of just a very brief introduction of it. I did include in your packet a copy of what the ordinance looks like now. And then I underlined new language, and I struck through language we are removing. The first one under nuisance parking and storage simply adds wheelhouses to the list of where you must not place, allow, or store fish houses, wheelhouses, so that adds into there. Then the definition of recreational vehicle, we added wheelhouse to that as well, and removed the part that said they have to be at least 16 feet long and 6 feet in height. That's kind of old language. I'm going these in order of city codes. So the next thing is dimensional standards. In the residential areas of the city, we have a 30 or a 35% impervious coverage lot maximum. We're running up into that all the time, where people are wanting to exceed that amount. And so we did some checking with other cities, and although they might have 30 or 40% lot coverage, they don't include driveways, they only include the building. So their 35% might be equal to our 50. So the Planning Commission was recommending going to a 50% a lot coverage maximum for these residential properties. And then in RC, which is residential, commercial, other type of a use, then that would be actually go from 50 to 75. So they did have some increases, significant increases in the impervious coverage allowance. And then also in the C2 and IC districts, they would allow 80, but only with a stormwater management plan or a SWIP. So those are kind of the impervious coverage changes. The next piece of the puzzle was the exterior storage of recreational vehicles, which is always a big issue in the city. What they're recommending to do it is to take out the restriction in the winter. So cross off between April and 1st and November 30th you can, and other than that you can't. And then they added some compliance, and they said that any recreational vehicle should be parked or stored in such a manner to minimize visual impact from adjacent residential uses. The restrictions they are recommending is A, have a license. The stored or parked recreational vehicle must display a current license. B, the storage location. The such stored or parked recreational vehicle shall meet the same setbacks as an accessory structure and shall not be stored forward of the front plane of the house on residentially zoned property, and shall not block any means of ingress or egress from a building. On parking in the driveway, they said they can be parked in a driveway forward of the front plane of the house for the sole and express purpose of loading and unloading for a period not exceeding 48 hours. On the storage location surface, they said they shall be parked or stored on a hard surface such as Class 5 pavement or concrete, which then is included in the lot area's impervious surface calculation. Living quarters, they shall not be used for living, sleeping, or housekeeping while parked as stored. And operable condition, they shall be in operable condition. No recreational vehicle shall be parked or stored in a location other than in a building unless it is in a condition for the safe and effective performance of its intended function. No recreational vehicle which is in a state of visible external disrepair shall be parked or stored outside of a building. And so then the other piece, the last piece to the amendments, we do have an outside storage section of our ordinance that added wheelhouses in addition to recreational vehicles. So those are kind of the gist of the explanations of the changes that we did. Most of it has to do with recreational vehicles and then those with impervious coverage. And I do have ordinance 779 in your packet, which if was adopted would enact those changes. So if there's anything you wish to change, table, take out, now would be the time. So.
Questions? Comments?
I have a comment. I still don't, you have section D requiring that they be put on a hard surface. I think that's problematic. There are boats and trailers all over this town that aren't parked on hard surfaces, and I don't think it really matters. They're parked behind garages, alongside garages, but they're not on hard surface.
No.
I think it's high-handed to say that you gotta put a pad in a class 5 or something.
The only thing, I think part of the reason why that was put in there is because you park a vehicle, a camper, whether it's a drivable one or a towable, you park it alongside and it's parked there for the winter next to the house and it sinks up to the axles because it's soft and you drag it out. Now your neighbor gets to also look at these deep ruts cut in the yard. It's only, and some of these places where they're parking them doesn't even come close to the setbacks.
Well, I'm not talking about the setback.
Right.
I'm just talking about the hard surface. Because I think, it sinks up to the axles and their yard is ripped up. Well, they can rip up their yard anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
It's their yard.
there's no zoning ordinance against having your yard ripped up.
I agree with Dave on that one.
Okay. I think that's the reason why,
Yeah, it gets ugly and torn up, but
Yeah.
you can have ugly torn up yard anyway, so cause seems irrelevant.
So in other words,
I think that the requirement for a hard surface is just not, it's not something I want the city getting into because, we're trying to
Right.
avoid having, call the neighbors because I don't like the way that looks kind of thing. And
It's gonna
Well, one of
be-
the
the boat
things,
is parked in the grass. Well, so what?
one of the things is that the setback, I think, is just gonna be just as hard to, you got a small distance between two houses and your neighbor parks it there and it's all on his property, but
Well, I mean, I understand the setback, and that has to do with water and drainage stuff too, and I guess if your RV is parked right up on the property line, is the water going in your neighbor's yard now?
Right.
You can't have a shed that close to the line.
No.
okay.
So,
And I think
is it
part of the set-
problematic? Yeah, they're all problematic.
Part of the setback issue too was, you have two houses and someone will park their camper between there and then you can't get through there and it's more of like a fire safety for fire equipment and to have access to the property if it's needed. They said they don't allow, like you said, two sheds up to the line on each side. I don't know that. And I believe that was what the part of the reason that the Planning Commission was talking not only about, respecting your neighbor and not parking so close to their property line, but also having safe access for emergency vehicles.
One of the things that was brought up at that meeting, I attended it, was right now, anything that happens in the city as far as this or anything else is basically on a complaint-driven basis. So if all of a sudden you get in a squabble with your neighbor and he's doing something you don't like it, you can turn him in, but the other 40 people in town don't get it.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, what's fair? So the question was asked at the Planning Commission whether or not the Planning Commission wants to keep doing this on a complaint-driven basis and pit neighbors against neighbors, or are we just gonna draw the line and say, no, the city's gonna make sure this isn't happening? I think the Planning Commission, and Heidi, correct me if I'm wrong, agreed that the complaint-driven basis needs to go away. So if it's an ordinance and it's a code, it's gonna be followed. And it's one of the things that we probably in the future have to hire a code enforcement officer that's gonna drive around and make sure that this is covered. So that's the direction that the Planning Commission was looking at.
We also just kind of wanted to take another look at this because its original intent was to clean up blight. And I think there's way more use of recreational vehicles, namely campers, by families, retired people, you name it. It's just a more popular way of getting around that we wanted to make it easier. So it lessens the burden of complaints on any one person, which, namely Sarah or the police officers who have to give out the warnings. I do agree that we probably could strike the location surface to allow even more ability for people to store those vehicles. Just keep them running and looking decent and don't annoy your neighbor.
Right.
And that's the intent.
The one thing is, letter C, parking in the driveway. That one there, we'd almost could put the date back on it again. Because there's a lot of people that store their campers all winter long. They bring them home, they park them in the driveway because that's the only place. They can't park them on the road because it's 48 hours.
Right.
They can park them in their driveway at that time. I don't see a problem with that. Because they're the ones that are, but we need to be able to,
You know, I don't either. You could park your big, huge truck in your driveway all winter long. Some of those trucks are as big as some of those RVs, so.
right.
Yeah.
What date?
Well, I was thinking like December 1
It
to
would have to
April
be
1.
December because you have the hunting crowd that breaks theirs till end of November practically.
Right. But then that also throws the ice castle fish houses, the ones
Yeah.
that, you know, that throws that in there. So that brings in that language again, whether or not it can be sitting in their front yard. It's not my camper, you know, but it's a recreational vehicle.
So you're saying instead of exceeding 48 hours, we just put in, it cannot be parked in your driveway between November 30th and April 1st of each year,
Right,
but it can all summer
right.
when it's
'Cause
being
they're, you
used.
know, that's, you
I
know,
guess the next
we're
question is,
basically.
why do we care if they park it in their driveway?
We had the
They can park
conversation.
any other vehicle in the driveway all winter.
Yeah.
We brought up the setbacks and also emergency,
He sure is.
the ingress and egress from garage door and accessibility with a large structure in a
Well,
driveway.
I can see the egress. That's, you know, fire safety kind of an issue. People need to get out of the house, and fire department may need to get in, although they'll make their own hole.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, go ahead.
you know, I'm just thinking, yeah, parking in the driveway, they can park all kinds of things in the driveway all winter. Doesn't really make any difference. It's an RV instead of a panel truck.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it does, so why restrict it?
So then you want to take out the setback for the
So-
front setback, for the street setback? Because if you're in the
Well, I
driveway, you probably don't make
understand-
setbacks.
I understand the rationale behind the setback. I mean, we don't let you put a shed too close to the property line, a lot of things like that. Difficulty in.
I mean, most
enforcing,
houses-
Yeah, I know how that goes, because we don't know where the property lines are, and we're not gonna go out and survey it.
Well, most houses are 30 feet. I mean, at 30 feet behind the sidewalk, that's the setback.
Yep.
So you're saying can't park it there, but you can, if you can park, if your house happens to be far enough back? Or are you saying get rid of the setback for the front of the house?
Because if you
Well,
got
you
the
know,
setback
again-
on the ferry, you could
Yep.
be parking, blocking the sidewalk.
Again, I could lose the setbacks completely too, but again, you could park any other vehicle in front of your house on the driveway. What makes this one special? You know, I don't think it matters. If you can park any other vehicle there, then why not an RV? Why not leave your boat sitting there?
Or do you mean like if it's parked in the driveway, it's one thing, but if you're storing it off on your grass, then it can't be in the front?
Well, I mean,
I just want to make sure I know,
Well,
so
mean,
I don't.
No, I understand that, you know, the side setback, I'm just thinking of drainage issues. I mean, that's why we, you know, have restrictions on residences and buildings too close to side lots. You're just dumping your water on the neighbors. So I understand if that's the rationale behind it, but otherwise, I don't have an issue. Didn't worry about the setbacks. Again, how are we going to enforce that? We don't know where the property lines are.
What I'm thinking is, you know, this has been an ordinance that's been around for quite a while. Maybe it's something that we take these comments and send it back to the planning commission and have them wheel it out rather than, because I don't think we're gonna come to a clear conclusion on this tonight. Or unless I'm totally wrong, but to me, I think the planning commission could work on it some more with the feedback that we've got. The egress one, that's basically because I've seen too many people take their boat and stick it underneath their they got a walkout basement and they stick the boat underneath the deck, blocking the outdoor exit out of their basement. You know, to me, that's a fair issue. It shouldn't happen.
Right.
That's the reason why I actually asked to please have that put in.
That I can understand.
Because if you can't get out of your house because you park there, the fire department can't get in, even though they're gonna make holes, make their own way in, they shouldn't have to, when all they gotta do is kick the door in. But if they gotta move a boat, or they gotta move something else to get there, and you're not able to help get yourself to get out, you're causing a problem.
Yeah.
That one there, but I think, my opinion is we table this and let it go back to the planning commission to decide how we're gonna do this.
Table just the exterior storage, 156.020.
This, all this discussion has been about the recreational vehicle stuff. So the lot coverage stuff, that's fine.
Does anybody have anything other than recreational, problems with the recreational vehicle?
Nope.
So take 156.020 out of the ordinance and then consider the balance of the ordinance?
Right. Do you want us to make a motion to that fact?
If you want to adopt the balance of the ordinance, yes.
With that one taken out, okay, with recreational vehicles taken out.
That leaves us with just,
Pervious coverage, definitions,
well, the definition isn't included in the RV, that's included in the same ordinance, isn't it? I mean,
It's a
in the
different-
same-
it's
the
a
same
different section.
section has the definition.
it's just adding
Well,
wheelhouses to
in
the
any
definition.
case, I think if we take care of the one with the impervious surface, that's fine. There's no issues with that.
Okay,
I think there's still issues with the RV storage and some of the requirements there.
okay,
So only 156.049.
right,
Okay.
Yep.
yep, that'd be the only one that we would adopt tonight.
Yep.
And the rest we will take care of at a later date,
All right.
after planning commission can do that.
We can do what we want, but would it be more convenient for us to just table the whole thing and do it at once?
It doesn't make any difference. You can adopt that first piece and then
Okay.
just get that off the table.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion that we adopt that section at 156.049.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Dave, seconded by Diane, to adopt 156.049, the dimensional standards on pervious coverage. Do I have any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve Resolution 2018-88, accepting grant award from FEMA.
The Sauk Center Fire Department has applied for an Assistant to Firefighters grant from the Department of Homeland Security, which is through FEMA. The city was notified that it was successful and was awarded $120,753 to be used for the purchase of new SCBA, which is self-contained breathing apparatus, or air packs. The city council should accept the award and authorize entering into a grant agreement, and I have that in front of you, Resolution 2018-88.
Comments? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2018-88, accepting the grant award?
So moved.
Motion by Keith, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries
We get these
5 in
packets ahead of
favor,
time.
none against. 7H, approve Resolution 2018-89, consenting to name change for charter franchise.
The city currently has a cable franchise agreement with Charter Communications. Charter Communications is changing its operating structure, reduces the number of operating entities and subsidiaries, and aligns its cable operations into regions. You've all heard of Spectrum, and as a result, the city is operating is going to be changing to Spectrum Mid-America LLC rather than Charter Communications as it relates to our franchise agreement. So what we're looking to here is just to consent to the change and to assign our Charter Communications franchise agreement to Spectrum Mid-America LLC. That's Resolution 2018-89.
Comments? Questions? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2018-89 consenting to the assignment of franchise?
So moved.
Motion by Keith.
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7I, approve seasonal appointment, arena outdoor rink.
We have, Ben has been requested the appointment of winter seasonal employees at the ice arena. This is something that we do every year. We have for figure skating, we have Sarah Linow and Callie Herdering, and they are returning to do the figure skating lessons. Outdoor rink is Dennis Christensen, and the civic arena is Mike Anderson, but we have 2 additional ones since we adopted the resolution that we had recommended, and one is Willetsko, and the other is Kane. And we have talked to both of them, and they will be able to fill in nights and weekends. So that's what we were looking for. We wanted to have 3 part-time up there so that we could work with shifts. They didn't have to work every night or every weekend. So these will all be, they're advertised 10 to 32 hours. We have one that wants like 25 hours and one only wants 10, but we'll be able to work within our allotted budget with these 3 part-time individuals. So we are looking for tonight to approve the seasonal appointments as we have presented, and those last 2, of course, are conditional on the background check coming through.
All right.
And they will start at step 1?
They would, the 2 new ones would start at step 1, yes.
Questions? Comments? Do I have a motion to approve the seasonal appointments as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Keith, second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Unfinished business, e-cigarette ordinance.
We have 4 items here that are items to be expected on the next council agenda, and that was the e-cigarette ordinance and related changes to tobacco, the driveway curb cut policy amendments, the stormwater utility credit policy, and downtown parking special permits. So these are just things that you realize that we don't just put them on the shelf forever. We're trying to get them forward and bring them back to you for adoption.
Questions about either, any of those 4? Okay. We have no new business. It brings us to our consent agenda. We have schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $23,678.39, paid claims of $15,400, for a total of $39,078.39. September checks, paid claims payroll, $1,032,469.31. Resolution number 2018-90, accepting contributions of anonymous donators, $271.06 to be allocated to the dog park. I want to thank those donors for those contributions on behalf of the city. And Ben Moss from M&M's Corner Bar has requested to have Sunday liquor added to their liquor license, as they now have received the required food and beverage license in order to be allowed to have a Sunday liquor license. The fee of $200 is to be provided. Is there any questions on the consent calendar? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 11, informational items.
Just have one informational item to remind everybody that November 6th, Tuesday, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. is voting for the midterm elections, and the city has 3 items on the ballot: mayor, 2 for city council, and a city sales tax question. And the school board also has openings on there as well. So those are the very local events and or local races. The ballot will be published in the paper. We do have it posted here up at the senior center and some areas around town, because I think people like to get a look at it ahead of time so they can decide what they want to do. But that will come out in the paper and on Facebook as well, so you'll be able to see that ballot. And there is an open seat on the city council, so if anybody has the desire to run a write-in campaign, this would be a good year to do it. So, that's all I have.
Questions? Just not for Keith.
Okay. That brings us to our end of our agenda, but we still have a closed session coming up, so we will recess our regular council meeting and let everyone leave so we can close the doors.
Well, they're leaving. Can we go to the bathroom?
Yes, we closed our closed session, or we adjourned our closed session and reconvened our regular council meeting. In closed session, we discussed a real estate offer and labor negotiations concerning health insurance. We have directed staff in both cases of the council's wishes. And I think that's basically...
And no official action.
And no official action has been taken. So, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Heidi, second by... Second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.